What's going on? It's Trip Young. It was a long night for me. Um, you guys used to hearing me upbeat when I start the show off. Um, but I got to keep it real on this one. And I'm gonna introduce my co-host in 1 second. But I got to do this because if I don't do this, I know the haters is gonna continue to hate. Yes, the New York Football Giants got their ass whooped last night. Yes, it was ugly, and yes, I'm still here, Eric. I ain't even crack open the next bottle of alcohol. So to let you know I'm in a good space right now. I'm still doing good. I'm still doing good in these streets. I made it. And I'm gonna stand on that, man. We still here. We ain't going nowhere. And we'll be right back to this thing next year. Now that I got that out the way, let me get my energy right so I can introduce my co-host, my brother, the one and only legend in two games. What's going on, man?
What's really good, bro? Listen, don't hang your head, man. Ain't nothing to hang your head about. The Giants had a phenomenal season. Yeah, it got ugly there yesterday,
Did
but
do that.
overall, if I would have told you back in September, the Giants are going to win 9 games, the Giants are going to win a playoff game, and the Giants will be in Philly in the second round of playoffs, you would have taken that every day of the week. So
Oh,
it
hell
was
yeah.
a success overall. There's nothing to hang your head about. You know what I'm saying? Only a select few teams get to play in the divisional round of the playoffs. As you know, only 8 of those 32 NFL teams are in that round. So it's a great accomplishment in itself.
Exactly. Listen, man. I'm let me say this. I am very, very, very proud of the New York Football Giants. Congratulations to every one of those men and women within the organization. Everything that they were able to accomplish this season. Coming into the season, like you said, Eric, we weren't even pegged to make the playoffs, let alone to get a win in the playoffs, which we did last week. Unfortunately, only one team could come out victorious. That was the Philadelphia Eagles. Congratulations to them. Congratulations to the Eagles fans that I know that I had to be subject to watching the game with last night and feeling so hurt and beaten last night. But congratulations to you guys. Again, I ain't running from no smoke though. I am here, and we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about everything that went down with that game. Matter of fact, Eric, let's just jump right in to the recap and let's get it out the way because I'm ready to move on now. Now I'm ready to move on. Let's talk about it. Let's get it out the way. Um, Giants came out the gate way too slow. They were not moving the football. You know, big props to the Eagles defense. They did everything they were supposed to do in that game. Jalen Hurts looked good. He looked like the MVP candidate that we had been seeing all season. Um, the coaching was there. And we, the Giants just couldn't. They just couldn't make anything happen. Um, Hopefully, now that we've seen how this thing plays out, the Giants will go ahead and make some moves this offseason and bring in a legitimate number one and a legitimate number two wide receiver to help out Daniel Jones if they do re-sign him, because again, his contract and Saquon Barkley's contract is up, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But yeah, man, listen, the Eagles came to play football, and that's what they did, and they stomped out a win.
Yeah, the moment was too big for the Giants. I thought there was a particular sequence of plays early in the game that kind of let me know that this moment was too big for them. Eagles go right down the field, go up 7-0. The crowd is rocking, the place is going crazy as anticipated. The Giants have a little drive going. They get to about the 40-yard line of the Eagles. It's 3rd and 3. Daniel Jones gets sacked. And for whatever reason, Brian Dable goes for it immediately. And it's a 4th and 8. Then he gets sacked again. And then the Eagles have short field. And then before you know it, the Eagles are 14-0. And that sequence of plays stuck out to me in a moment because that was one of them situations where I get it. They've been aggressive all year long. That's Brian Dable's style. But that's also one of them where you have to understand the moment and realize this game is way too early to start giving Philly short field to drive down and potentially score again, especially since it only took them like 7 plays to score to start the game. So we can't just give them the ball back at midfield and allow them to put more points up against us. As I've highlighted all year, the biggest Achilles heel for the Giants is when they get down 2 scores early in games because the Giants want to run the ball. They want to get the play action going. They want to get Daniel Jones on the move. And if you're down 10-0, 14-0 right away, it puts you behind the 8 ball and puts you in a situation that your team really isn't equipped for. The Giant receivers, young receivers, we highlighted them last week. but ain't none of them guys a true number one. Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, Richie James, them guys ain't number one receivers.
They might not even
So
be true number threes.
right. So now you're putting yourself in a situation where you're down 14-0 early. Daniel Jones now has to save you, and that's not where he's at his best. He's at his best when he's able to move around, throw the ball around the field, run, and get the play action going, not stand in the pocket and have to pick a defense apart. I thought, to me, that's what really killed you guys early. Instead of playing it a little smarter, a little more conservative, Dabo got too aggressive, and before you know it, you were down 14-0, and it wasn't even halfway through the first quarter.
Yeah, and I just think the Giants don't have the weapons to be that aggressive. They don't have a big play tight end like a Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews or George Kittle, one of those guys. They don't have a Justin Jefferson or AJ Brown that can take those plays and make them happen. So yeah, you're absolutely right. On that play, I mean, once you get sacked on 3rd and 3 and it's down to 4th and 8, you got to punt the football in that situation. If we're talking about anything less than 4 yards, because again, that's how we've been moving and grooving the whole season, I'm okay with that. But when we talk about 8 yards and again, you don't have a big play receiver or tight end, it's real tricky. And when you're playing against one of the top defenses in football, you just can't afford to make those kind of decisions. Again, I still think that Brian Daboll is the coach of the year. But listen, I mean, we gotta call a spade a spade. The Eagles have a better team all around than the Giants do. So
I apologize, Trip. I'm laughing because you're being attacked in the comment section right here. Shout out to Jonathan. he getting at you early in the day, man.
oh, you know what it is the Facebook comments aren't coming through for some reason. So
Oh, I
he's commented on Facebook.
yeah, he commented on Facebook.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't come up here in the chat, but I do see it on Facebook. Shout out to Jonathan, man.
Okay. Yeah. Matter of fact, Eric, do me a favor. Tell him to type in his comments on the YouTube so that we can. I'm actually commenting back.
I bet I'm gonna let him know. I'm gonna tag him right now.
Yeah, he just called me like literally as I was hitting the go live button. I texted him, I told him he was recording, so I figured he'd be up to he gonna be talking his mess today. He's an Eagles fan. Thankfully, I was fortunate enough to not be in the same vicinity as him watching the game, because that would have made the loss a lot tougher than it was. But I already came in here and I said my piece. I gave y'all props. So that's it. That's where it stops. After that, the same way I'll be out here talking about F them picks, F that Eagles team. Okay. That's how we moving and grooving. It's always going to be about New York until a casket drop. That's it.
Listen, and again, it's nothing wrong with the Giants season ending yesterday. I mean, granted, losing by 30 points doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
But overall, it was a huge success for the Giants. With Brian Daboll this year, I don't care what anybody says. Brian Daboll, I've been saying it for weeks. Brian Daboll is the coach of the year. What he did with this team, again, they didn't have much cap space. They weren't able to retool the roster. Brian Daboll pretty much took the same team that the Giants had last year and turned them into a 9-win team and a team that could win a playoff game. Yeah. So major kudos to him. The Giants still have a lot of development to do. And I want to say this to you, Trip, and all the Giant fans out there. What you experienced this year was great. But don't get caught too far ahead thinking, oh, if we just make 1 or 2 moves, now we can compete for a Super Bowl. This is still a developmental situation because Daniel Jones isn't the elite quarterback that he needs to be for you to win a Super Bowl with him. Yeah. You found out that Saquon could be healthy for a year. That's great. But you got to get receivers. You got to get cornerbacks. And you got to get another DN that can help Thibodeau get to the quarterback, because Thibodeau right now is really the only guy that can get there. So you got to work on some areas. And this kind of reminds me of a couple years ago when another Thibodeau, Tom Thibodeau, came to the Knicks, turned them into a good competitive team, and everybody lost their mind. And then when they got smoked by Atlanta in the first round, it kind of brought everybody back down like, all right, we still got some work to do. Same thing with the Giants. You're a competitive team. You got a chance to win 9 and 10 games again next year, but you still got to work on some areas to really play with the teams like Philly, like San Fran.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like I said earlier, we need a legitimate number 1 wide receiver and a legitimate number 2 wide receiver. Again, the improvement that Daniel Jones made this season, because he actually, when you look at the numbers, Daniel Jones actually made a big leap this season, and that's a big leap without like I said, a legitimate, no, even having a legitimate number two. Honestly, I think Slayton, who's probably our best receiver, he's really a number three wide receiver, to be honest with you, in my opinion. So if you're the Giants, you have to go out, you have to go get a legitimate number one and number two wide receiver. You're right. You got to work on that secondary, and you got to get somebody else on that pass rush, who can help out with Thibodeau, who is going to be he's going to be a superstar in this league. But you got to get back to the times where we had Michael Strahan on one side, Justin Tuck on the other side, and then we had OC Umenora, just to bounce around, just in case somebody wanted to start some mess. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of improvements that need to be made, so we cannot just rest on the fact that we made the playoffs and we listen, we won a game in the wild card round. Nah, we can't rest on that. We have to continue to get better, especially if you know much respect to Daniel Jones, but I don't see him turning into a top five quarterback going into next season.
Right.
I think he will continue to improve because Dayball is that good of a coach. And he seems to be the new QB whisperer amongst coaches. So I think he'll continue to improve. But again, we see the most improvement from these type of quarterbacks when you add a true number one wide receiver. We talk about this all the time. We talk about what Stephon Diggs did for Josh Allen. Okay, we talk about the difference in when teams that really have that legit number one wide receiver and the ones that don't, and how they struggle. And he did a good job with threes and fours, but you have to get him some weapons. That is the only way to really take Daniel Jones to the next level.
Yeah, for me with the Giants, it'll be interesting to see what type of contract they offer Daniel Jones because I think he's earned another contract. The
Absolutely.
question is that a 5-year deal or is it a 3-year deal? Because for me right now, when I look at Daniel Jones, I see a guy that, like you said, he's developed pretty well this year in comparison to previous seasons. Brian Dable seems to have a really good strategy of how he wants to use him. But if I had to put a comparison on who his ceiling is or what player he might project to be, it's probably like Alex Smith. It's probably like a serviceable quarterback who can
Mhm.
win you some games, but you're not going to win a Super Bowl with Alex Smith. It's the reason why the 49ers replaced him with Colin Kaepernick. It's the reason why Kansas City replaced him with Patrick Mahomes. Like you can win some games. We can even get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But are you good enough to beat the other elite quarterbacks? Probably not. And that's why to me that contract's going to be interesting because I think a 3-year deal is really the range you should be in with the mindset of we eventually have to find the guy. He's a guy right now. He's
Yeah.
not the guy.
And again, if you build around him and bring those pieces in, I think he is good enough to get your Super Bowl, because every Super Bowl isn't won by an elite quarterback. But you have to have the team around him to compensate for what you don't get from Daniel Jones. So if you do have those receivers in place, if your defense is if you got a 49ers esque defense, something like that, which the Giants have had some really good defenses in the past. Again, as much as I love Eli, I don't think Eli was ever a top five quarterback during his career. Hall of Famer, no doubt, but I don't think he was ever a top five quarterback. And guess what? The Giants got two Super Bowls with Eli Manning behind center. So I think it is, if you can put the right pieces around Daniel Jones, I think he can get you to that point. But again, it starts with this offseason. The because again, we're still kind of in the rebuild mode. With the Giants are actually a very young team. But I do like what we've been doing the last couple of years, starting, going back to drafting Saquon, drafting Thibodeau, drafting Neal last year. These guys are going to be stars in this league. Evan Neal had a great year for the Giants. This is the best I've seen the Giants offensive line look since maybe the Giants won their second Super Bowl. So you got to get those pieces around Daniel Jones. Um, if you're not going to make an upgrade at the quarterback position, you're gonna have to put the pieces in place to help Daniel Jones as much as possible, because he did not turn the ball over this season the way he has done in the past. those numbers dropped. His rushing
Right.
yards doubled, his passing yards went up, everything kind of went up, and the turnovers went down. But you do have to get him some help. But again, congratulations to the Eagles. They will be facing the winner of tonight's Cowboys 49ers game. Um, so we'll be talking more about them next week. But let's talk about the early game yesterday. My guy, your guy, Mount Rushmore of
Oh,
quarterback.
we started a firestorm with that.
We did because they've been going back and forth, but we the 1 foot bandit last night came through once again. And what's the numbers on this, Eric? He has now not ever lost before a championship round in the playoffs. Correct?
That is correct. He is 5-0 in the divisional round of the playoffs. Everybody made a big deal about, Trevor Lawrence ain't never lost on a Saturday before. Dating back to high school, he's never lost on a Saturday. Well, he lost on a Saturday yesterday, and he lost to a team that had a quarterback with one leg. That again speaks to the greatness of Patty Mahomes. That I could play out there on one leg and still make it happen and still find a way to win. The Chiefs are the Chiefs, man. A lot of people, want to try to put limitations on how great this team is. It's not Patriot type dynasty. I don't want to put it in that type of conversation, but 5 straight conference championships is nothing to just dismiss. We got to give them their just due and understand that every year they are the cream of the crop in the AFC, and somehow every year they're playing for an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and listen, it's not Patriots dynasty,
Right.
but the reason for that is because everybody ain't married to $100 million woman, so where they could just continue to take pay cuts and have the team be able to build these elite defenses. Because as great as Tom Brady was, he's the GOAT. That's my guy. But he was also fortunate enough that the Patriots were able to put elite defenses on the other side of that football for the duration of maybe not like the last season he was there, but for the most part they were able to put elite defenses on the other side of that football. And listen, defense wins championships. You have to have that upper tier defense. So with the Chiefs, I mean, Patrick Mahomes got that $500 million deal, so I don't know how much they'll be able to put into the defense. And we already seen they weren't able to retain the Honey Badger, who's one of the top safeties in football. This season they had to let him go. But it just is a testament to how great Patrick Mahomes is, how great that offense is, how great of an offensive mind that both Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid are. For a team to play a very good, very hot Jaguars team, and Patrick Mahomes to be playing on 1 foot pretty much the whole second half of that game, and the drive that he went out on in the first half, he still got back in there and was going down the field on one leg. If that doesn't say MJ flu game, if that doesn't say Mount Rushmore performance, I don't know who else, which one of these guys is going to be able to do that. And he was upset because he did not want to leave that game. Wrap it up, wrap the ankle. I'm going back in. Obviously the backup came in and held it down for a couple of minutes to complete the half. But Mahomes went back out there and did what he does. And even before that though, and I told you yesterday, that first drive, Mahomes going down the field, that was something special. He pretty much did anything he wanted. Like when you watch Patrick Mahomes play, there's levels to quarterback play in this league.
Oh, that's a fact.
And he is at the top.
Yeah, it's levels to it. Again, just to recap some of the things we talked about on Friday, because we had a lengthy discussion about the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes.
Mhm.
Andy Reid coming off the bye week. In Kansas City alone, this ain't even taking into account what he did in Philadelphia, because he was great in bye weeks there. But in Kansas City alone, going into yesterday, he was 9-1 coming off a bye week. It showed why again yesterday, as you mentioned, because that first drive of the game, they did whatever they wanted to do. They got the running game going. They got the passing game going. They just moved right down the field. It was no problem. But guess what? When it seemed like it was in jeopardy and they get punted deep into their own zone and they're at the 2-yard line and you got to bring in a backup quarterback, that's why coaching matters, because a good head coach is going to get you into the plays that you're comfortable in and make sure, all right, We're going to get you some nice, easy throws. And you heard the commentator even say, Chris Collinsworth, that was great of Andy Reid. The first play, you get Chad Henne in, you get him a nice little quick little 4-yard pass just to get him a little rhythm. Then they started getting some out patterns, get the running game going. They go down the field 98 yards with the backup quarterback when the game is in a balance at that point, right? I mean, it's not a done deal. Kansas City was only up 10-7 at that point. If Jacksonville makes a big play, it completely swings that game. But Mahomes and those guys are phenomenal, man. And like I said, we created a firestorm by having that discussion on Friday. But people can't ignore the facts, man. 5 straight conference championships. At 27 years old, Patrick Mahomes has already been to the same amount of conference championships as Aaron Rodgers. He's been to more conference championships than Dan Marino and Drew Brees. He's been to more than Eli, like you mentioned. So the guys that are in front of Patrick Mahomes, when we're talking about greatest quarterbacks of all time, I'm not saying Mahomes has jumped those guys. But for me, the only guys that are in front of him in terms of levels and greatness are Brady, Montana, and Manning. Other than that, you would be hard-pressed to name another quarterback that has been more productive than Mahomes has been. And as you said on Friday as well, he's on the cusp of winning his second MVP already. So we know guys, when they say, oh, you got to have a Super Bowl, he got that. He's been to 2 Super Bowls and he got 1. Oh, you got to have the MVPs, he got that. You got to have the records. He has those things already. So now it's just adding on to the resume. If they get to a 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years, I don't know how we cannot have a legitimate conversation about his place among the greats.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. Because when you talk about the guys who statistically are ahead of Patrick Mahomes, that's more of a time thing as opposed to a talent thing. Because if you compare Aaron Rodgers, even Peyton, even Tom Brady, compare their first 4 years in the NFL to Patrick Mahomes' first 4 years in the NFL, and he blows a lot of guys out of the water with his numbers. I mean, we're talking about this 5,000-yard season
He was the
already.
only quarterback this year that threw for 5,000 yards. He was the only quarterback this year that had more than 40 touchdowns.
And so now we're talking about twice in the first 4 years of his career, throwing for 5,000 yards and 40 plus touchdowns, because he hit 50 the MVP year, right? So now in 4 years, we're talking about almost 20,000 passing yards with. We're just gonna count the 2 MVPs now. Just put that in there already. 2 MVPs, 1 Super Bowl win, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and 1 Super Bowl MVP, right? And I believe 4 All-Pro appearances. For All Pro, right? So show me the quarterback that had a better first 4 years in the league than Patrick Mahomes. So when you're talking about, guys that are ahead of him, statistically, because obviously if you didn't play 10 years in this league and you're an elite quarterback, your numbers are going to be better because the totality of the amount of time. He just hasn't had the amount of time in the league to be on that level. But if you compare the first 4 years of Mahomes' career to any of these other top Hall of Fame quarterbacks, he's either on par or ahead of a lot of those guys. And then when you add in the accomplishments that he's had at such a young age, having a Super Bowl MVP, having 2 regular season MVPs, a lot of these guys don't have those accolades on their belt at this point in their career. So you got to put Patrick Mahomes on that Mount Rushmore, even at this young age. He is the guy. Sometimes we knew after 2 years MJ was going to be MJ. We knew after 2 years LeBron was going to be LeBron. Sometimes you see these guys early on in their career, they have it and they sustain that throughout their career. And Patrick Mahomes is one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point because year 5 of LeBron, we kind of knew we were going to have this type of conversation about LeBron.
Absolutely.
We didn't need 10 years to see LeBron to know that LeBron was going to be in this type of conversation. After 5 years of seeing Kevin Durant, we kind of knew Kevin Durant might be the most gifted scorer the game had ever seen.
Absolutely.
We knew that already. But again, Friday, we talked about this. Mahomes going to his 5th conference championship. So now that puts him in the same conversation. These are the guys who've been to 5, right? Aaron Rodgers, Big Ben, Peyton Manning, McNabb, Brett Favre, Jim Kelly, Ken Stabler. So now he's in the conversation with those guys in terms of appearances. The only guys ahead of him at this point are Bradshaw, Elway, Staubach, Montana, Young, and Brady. Those are the only guys who have more appearances than him. And this was a nugget that I saved. I didn't want to spoil it on Friday. I didn't want to spoil it. I didn't want to spoil it on Friday because I'm like, let him get to the conference championship. I encourage everybody to look at the numbers of conference championship play, just conference championship. Right now, Mahomes has the best QBR in the history of the conference championship game. NFL conference championship. His QB rating is 113. All right. He's also fourth already in touchdowns thrown in conference championship games. He's fourth. And then you telling me a guy who is only 27 years old, who's about to play in his fifth conference championship, who is gonna be a two-time league MVP, doesn't deserve to be in that conversation? Y'all bugging, man. He's in that conversation, and I think we're probably 2 or 3 years away from starting to etch his face in that Mount Rushmore.
Well, he's already been etched in the Mount Rushmore on this on this side of town.
I mean, for everybody,
Yeah,
because
I think what happens is because, and again, this you want to win Super Bowls, right? Because those are a big part of your legacy. But because people put so much on the actual number of Super Bowl wins and championship wins in general, there's a lot of people who are going, not yet, because boy, he only got one ring. He only got that. Well, first of all, I probably would say 80% of Hall of Fame quarterbacks only have one Super Bowl win. Like, guys ain't out here just having 3 and 4 Super Bowl wins. Brady is an anomaly by himself. But other than that, I mean, how many quarterbacks have 3 Super Bowl wins?
So,
because Peyton only got 2, and we got him on the Mount Rushmore.
Right. Peyton has 2. He's been to 4. He's got 2. The guys with 3 or more, you're talking Brady, you're talking Bradshaw, you're talking Montana, and I think Roger Staubach. Oh, and Aikman. So those 5.
And Aikman is not even. We don't even have him.
And I'm trying to think. Staubach doesn't even have 3. Staubach has 2. Staubach has 2 because the Cowboys as an organization have 5, and Aikman has 3 of those 5.
Yes.
So Staubach has 2, Aikman has 3. So again, we're talking Aikman with 3. We're talking Montana with 4. I'm not including Steve Young in this list just because Steve Young did win some rings as a backup. He has 1 as a starter, but Steve Young has 2. He has 3 total, but 2 of those were as a backup to Joe Montana. He has the 1 as the legitimate starter. But if you're talking starters who have 3 or more Super Bowl championships, you're talking Bradshaw, you're talking Aikman, you're talking Montana, you're talking Brady. That's really it. That's the list.
There you go. And that's what I'm saying. So, especially in football, it's a lot harder to just to get to a Super Bowl, let alone to win a Super Bowl. So that's why I say, a lot of time, you obviously you want your guy to have as many Super Bowl rings as possible because it matters. But we also have to remember, this is not basketball. This is not hockey where you play both sides of the ball. It's, this is not baseball where guys bat and they play the outfield. Super Bowl, to win championship in football, just offense. You play offense. I don't know no quarterbacks that play defense.
No.
So I might be wrong. I don't got all the numbers in front of me, but I have not known a quarterback in the NFL that also played defense. Right. So that's why for me, obviously rings is high on my list, but it can't be the tell-all be-all because offensive players only play offense. These guys don't play defense, so you can't dictate. You could be the greatest quarterback in the history of football, but if you ain't got a good defense, guess what? You ain't gonna win a lot of games. It just is what it is. We saw the last year Tom Brady was in New England when the team was mediocre. It wasn't nothing special over there. They didn't have a defense. They didn't have nothing. So you have to also take into account that football is the most the sport where you most have to look at and say, all right, Super Bowls, yes, they are amazing. You want to have those under your belt, but it is probably the sport where it's most a team accomplishment because again, guys don't play offense and defense.
And I think that the Super Bowl argument is unfair for quarterbacks because you can play a great game as a quarterback and your team could still lose, right?
Exactly.
When the Patriots lost to the Eagles, the Patriots dropped like 34 points in that game. So Brady and the offense did their job. The defense couldn't get off the field, and the Eagles beat them. So I think that's where it gets a little unfair because you can play a really good game and you could put up the numbers and somehow still lose. and then you
Yes.
get categorized like, oh, he's never won a big one, and it's a little unfair. But I think if you at least win one, it changes the conversation. That's why we don't, for me anyway. I've heard people and I've seen in the comment section, oh, what about Marino? Well, Marino didn't win one. And Marino only went to one Super Bowl. It wasn't like he went multiple times and just couldn't get over the hump. He went to one Super Bowl and that was it. It was his second year in the league. He never got back. Elway went to 5. So him just winning his 2 to me puts him in the conversation. And that's why I won't discredit Elway as when people say, oh, well, is Mahomes ahead of Elway? All right, that's a fair one. We could have that conversation. But you got to at least win one. You can't be a guy who's super talented and never won one. After you get one, we can have the conversation. That's why we talk about Aaron Rodgers. He has 1. We talk about Big Ben. He has 2. We could talk about some of them guys. But if you ain't got 1, you can't be in the conversation.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Even with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, if you look at his resume and the accolades that he has, he's going to be mentioned amongst the greats because he has multiple MVPs. A lot of quarterbacks don't have multiple MVPs. You know what I'm saying? Even guys that have multiple championships don't have multiple MVPs. So there's a whole lot of layers that go into this thing when you're talking about who's the top guys, who's on the Mount Rushmore. You know, but again, what Patrick Mahomes is doing right now, in my time of watching football, I have not seen someone this early in their career accomplish what Patrick Mahomes has accomplished.
Yeah, I agree. I can't remember a guy this dominant this early. Again, as you mentioned, just if he wins the MVP this year, and we think he will, if you just look at his 2018 and his 2022, 23 season, just the numbers alone from those 2 seasons, you're talking over 10,000 yards passing and 90 touchdowns. And that's just 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And physically, we're told that you don't reach your physical prime until you're 28. This guy's doing all this at 27.
He's been doing it before 27. So,
Right. He's before 27. When he lost Tyreek Hill this year, people, oh, well, now we're going to see the real Patrick Mahomes. Well, I guess this is the real Patrick Mahomes then, the MVP of the league.
yeah,
Let's not forget Valdez Scantling and Juju Smith weren't even on his team last year. Pacheco wasn't on his team last year. So
Darius
3 of his best weapons weren't even on the team last year.
Yeah.
And he has integrated them so quickly that they could still win 14 games and win the division and get to another conference championship. Patrick Mahomes, what we're watching is something very special from Patrick Mahomes, man. And I hope his ankle is healthy because next week we're going to get a great quarterback matchup no matter who wins that early game today. But just on Patrick Mahomes, we are witnessing greatness, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy because we just finished talking earlier about the difference having a number 1 receiver, makes for these quarterbacks. But we talking about Patrick Mahomes lost arguably, a guy that you could arguably say is the best wide receiver in football. Whether you want to go him or Justin Jefferson, or Devontae Adams, whatever. But you're not pushing Tyreek Hill past number 3 on the wide receiver list. He lost that and is still was able to get the MVP. He won the MVP the year before last with Tyreek Hill. He lost Tyreek Hill, brought in 3 new wide receivers because you had Juju, Scanlon Valdez, Kadarius Toney, who came in midseason. You got, obviously we know how weak the running game was until Pacheco started taking those snaps over from Hilaire Edwards. But the only consistent, realistically, is Travis Kelce. And this guy goes and gets the MVP again. Obviously, hasn't been announced yet, but we already know what it is. There's nobody getting the MVP this year over Patrick Mahomes. He got it. It's locked in. They just haven't made the announcement yet. But you lose a top 3 wide receiver, an all-time great wide receiver in Tyreek Hill, and with basically having at best a number 2 wide receiver with Juju Smith-Schuster, you still go out and get the MVP. Yeah, I'll take that over every other quarterback in the league this year. I'll take Patrick Mahomes over all of those guys.
I agree.
So it is what it is. But we still got a little bit more football to go to. We got 2 games coming on today. The first game, a game that we were supposed to get 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, DeMar Hamlin was injured in that game. He is actually doing much better right now. He'll probably be at this game today, cheering on his teammates. But yeah, but the game that we were supposed to see 2 weeks ago, which was canceled, the Bills and the Chiefs will lock back in. Talk to me, Eric. Who you taking in this game?
So I was just trying to double check to see if DeMar Hamlin will be there because that's something that we kind of hinted at for the past few weeks. Um, I think these are two evenly matched teams. I don't think Buffalo is as good as they were earlier this season when Von Miller was wrecking havoc. But on the flip side, the Bengals O line is kind of banged up. I'm leaning towards Buffalo. I think it's going to be a very close game coming down to a final possession. But because of the banged up line for the Bengals, I think Buffalo's able to exploit that a little bit. Leslie Frazier might dial up some blitzes today. Slightly going towards Buffalo just because I think the energy in that building is going to be crazy.
Yeah. At home, and on top of that, the Bengals now have lost two starting offensive linemen. I think the energy, the momentum, I think everything is looking like a Bills win at home. Um I gotta go with Buffalo. I'm still like, and again, I know people are gonna say, oh, yeah, but it was a divisional game against the Ravens. Those games are always close. Yeah, that sounds good. But in reality, honestly, I think they should have lost that game. So you know what I mean? Even with like if it was like if it wasn't if they didn't get the win on a fluke play, because I mean, come on, man, really on the guy Huntley goes in for a QB sneak on the 1 yard line and they run it back for a touchdown. You know what I mean? Like I can't give you too much kudos for that. So just looking at how bad they were, and now you're telling me they're gonna have one less of an offensive lineman, and we know the difference. A good old line and replacements can make. We saw that 2 years ago in the Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes when he had lost two linemen going into that game versus the Buccaneers. We saw the difference in how they look. We saw it this year with Tom Brady when they lost Jensen and a couple of the other linemen. We see that offensive line does make a huge difference. Neither one of these two teams, I think, have that good of a defense. I do think both quarterbacks should be able to do just about whatever they want to do in this game. But I got to give the edge to Buffalo in this situation at home. The momentum. I think we see Buffalo and Kansas City in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I mean, I think whoever wins this game is going to be a great matchup for Kansas City because if it's Buffalo, then we're going to get the neutral site game. If it's the Bengals, then we get the rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. So it's going to be a good matchup no matter what. To me, what concerns me is just the old line of the Bengals. You're down two starting offensive linemen this time of year. We saw last week when Miami was there, the troubles Miami had getting the play calls in because it was so loud in Buffalo, and they got a couple false start penalties and delay of game penalties. So I think that could factor in. I was trying to double check it. I believe Josh Allen is undefeated at home in the playoffs. It's something like 4-0 at this point, 4-0, 5-0. So that's another factor as well. They play really well at home. It doesn't matter what the weather is because Josh Allen has a cannon. So it don't matter if it's snowing or not. He's still going to be able to throw the ball around. But this is going to be a very good game. Very, very good game. Unfortunately, we're gonna lose out on one of these good young teams here. But I got Buffalo in a very close victory.
Exactly, absolutely. Let me just take a quick minute. Let me shout out everybody that's been bouncing back and forth in the live. We definitely appreciate you guys rocking out with us. Make sure that you guys continue to follow us on all our social media, facebook.com/, real fans real talk, Instagram, Twitter at real fan talk. And of course, let me throw the YouTube up on there. So make sure y'all subscribe to that YouTube channel, youtube.com/, for the fans productions. And make sure that you guys are also subscribed to the podcast, the Sanchez Show podcast. And of course, the Real Fans Real Talk podcast. We're streaming on all major platforms. So make sure you guys are locked in with us because, again, we have a whole lot of more content that we're going to be dropping this year. It's actually going to be a really, really big year for us content wise because we're pretty much on the air at least 3 days out of the week between the opinionated ones, real fans, real talk, and of course for our grown and sexy fans, the shooting the shit podcast, which episodes drop on Thursdays and Sundays. So make sure you guys continue to stay locked in with us. With that being said, the last game of the divisional round, it's going to be tonight. I believe it's 6:30 the game starts, and
Yeah.
that's going to be with the 49ers defending their home turf versus the Dallas Cowboys. I'm gonna let you know right now, Eric. Um, I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going with everybody's favorite, and shout out to Will Gordon, his new favorite quarterback in the league, Brock Purdy. I'm gonna go with him. I'm gonna go with Christian McCaffrey. I'm gonna go with Debo Samuel. I'm gonna go with Brandon Ayuk. I'm gonna go with George Kittle. I'm gonna go with Nick Bosa. I'm gonna go with Ward. I'm gonna go in with the San Francisco 49ers to win at home. And I think it's going to be clear. It's going to be made clear that they are a better team than the Dallas Cowboys. I know everybody is, kind of jumped on the Dak bandwagon after he had an amazing performance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But let me say this to Dak Prescott, the Cowboys organization, and all you Cowboys fans out there, dang the San Francisco 49ers. It's a whole completely different team that you're going to be facing. This is a defense that is bigger, stronger, and a lot faster than what you saw a week ago with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this is an offense that features two of the top position players in football with Debo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, both guys that could play running back or wide receiver on any team. And then we're gonna sprinkle in one of the better tight ends in football with George Kittle, and another guy who would be the number one receiver on most teams in football, and Brandon Ayuk, who also had 1,000+ yards receiving this season. This ain't the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, fellas. So get ready because it's gonna be a long night.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. Talent wise, I think the teams are pretty even just if you look at the roster. But coaching is way better on the San Fran side.
Yes.
Defense is way better on the San Fran side. Again, you're talking about number one defense across the board. Don't matter whether you're trying to pass against them or run against them. They're the number one defense. And the Niners, I think what they showed last year against Dallas in the playoffs will still ring true this year. They're just more physical, as you mentioned, bigger, faster, stronger. They're the bully. They're the team that's going to come in and can you handle their punishment for 4 quarters? I don't think Dallas can. Also, one of the matchups we highlighted Friday, Micah Parsons, Trent Williams. Will they allow Micah Parsons to go one-on-one with Trent Williams? Or are they going to try to move him around to find a matchup? Because Trent Williams is the best left tackle in all of football. And if you just leave Micah on that side, it ain't going to be a good day for him. It's going to be a long day for your defense. You're going to have to move him around. But again, everything you highlighted, I love because I said the same things too. Too many pieces, great coaching, just an overall balanced team. The 49ers at home are very tough to beat. I expect them to win. Competitive game, but I wouldn't be surprised if they win by a touchdown.
And you're absolutely right. You have to move Micah Parsons around because there's a guy that they brought in about halfway through the season. Caucasian fellow by the name of Christian McCaffrey. He's pretty good. And he can do it all.
I think I heard of him. I think I've heard of him before. Yeah.
No, you know that
Yeah.
guy? All right,
I
well,
might have
yeah.
heard of him. Yeah.
Okay, good, because he can do it all. And that means he can run downfield. He can go left, right. He can catch out of the backfield. He can burn you on just about any play. So you cannot have Micah Parsons just trying to go head up with Trent the entire game. That is not going to be a strategy that works for you because of the weapons that I mentioned before. Because if you do that, right, you got Christian McCaffrey who can pretty much do whatever. Then you also have another guy at playing tight end who is one of the top tight ends in football, and George Kittle that will get you 2 touchdowns easily if you ain't got that beast of a middle linebacker kind of spying the whole field. So you can't not play this game like that. I hope that's not their strategy going into this game, or we just gonna go head up and let those two guys go at it, because it really is. It's gonna be an even longer night than I said it was gonna be for you guys. But again, we're both taking the San Francisco 49ers in this game. So it's looking like, so if that holds true, then it will be San Fran going up to Philly in the NFC Championship game. and we both picked the Bills. So if that reigns true, it'll be Buffalo in Kansas City in a neutral site. I don't did they have the neutral site? 'Cause remember your Colts had shut them down
No,
early in
they
the season.
yeah, they got it. It's gonna be in Atlanta.
Okay.
Joe Mixon and the Bengals were actually a little upset because this week the league had announced that tickets had started going on sale.
Mm.
But I mean that's what the league gotta do because the league can't wait till we get the result of today. They
Yeah,
gotta kind of prepare. Again, it's a neutral site, so you got to give the fans an opportunity to buy their tickets ahead of time and be there. So, the Bengals kind of took slight to that, like, why are you already selling tickets for that? But it's a neutral site game.
it's a business.
Um,
What you mean why?
Right. And also, let's be clear, even if it wasn't a neutral site game, Kansas City would have started selling tickets for it already too. They would have
Exactly.
started selling tickets for the AFC Championship game. So that means nothing.
And on top of that, like okay, yeah, I get it because you think, oh, we don't know who's gonna be there, right? But at the end of the day, first of all, it's not gonna be a bunch of like you're not gonna have the whole Kansas City Chiefs fan base buying tickets to a game in Atlanta and then they're gonna pay for flights and hotel. Come on, stop. It ain't gonna
Right.
be like that. Like you might have a small percentage of fans that are actually from Kansas City that that fly out and go down there. I think this thing is gonna be pretty even anyway as far as the fans go and whatnot. So it's all good. Listen, you mad? Take that energy on the field, do your job
Right.
today.
And if you win, then there is no neutral site game and Cincinnati's going to Kansas City again. So it doesn't matter. You could win and those tickets mean nothing.
Word, because at the end of the day, first of all, for Joe Mixon, and I had him in fantasy football. After he had that 200 rushing yard game, and then he got hurt, he ain't looked the same since. So you need to be focused on your game on the field, get yourself back in the playoff
They
in
just
game shape instead of talking.
they're just trying to find things to motivate them at this point. That's all it is. But listen, it's playoff football. If you're not motivated by going to Buffalo with an opportunity to go to another AFC Championship game, then nothing's going to motivate you. It don't matter about no tickets. It don't matter about a neutral site game. Play football.
Exactly. So listen, with that being said, though, we're gonna jump into some NBA news. We had a real one at the Lakers game. We had Unc at the Lakers game going at it with the whole damn Memphis Grizzly team. It seemed like if you guys don't know, it's going viral by now, so you should already know. But Shannon Sharp got into it with Ja Morant. With Dylan Brooks and Steven Adams, tried to square up a little bit, and with Ja Morant's father. Um, and I loved it. I'm gonna be honest with you, Eric. I loved every minute of it. But I will let you go first. Talk to me about Shannon Sharp versus the Memphis Grizzlies.
Well, we got to remember this was a West Coast game. Um, sh- Unc might have had a couple shots before that moment happened. He been hanging out all day and he drinking courtside. I just don't understand the trash talk though. Like you got to play on the court, going back and forth with somebody in the stands, and specifically Shannon Sharp. You would think the trash talk would be at least respectful, understanding that that's a Hall of Fame NFL player and that's a fan of the game, more importantly. But from what Shannon Sharp said, the trash talk got disrespectful, and then that's when he got disrespectful, and then it started to escalate there from there. And then T Morant comes over, and I think T Morant kind of caught like a stray. T Morant probably was coming over to just see what was going on, and
Mm-hmm.
then Unc saw him coming, so then Unc said whatever he had to say. But thankfully they patched it up, and you saw them towards the end of halftime hugging it out and laughing about it. So I'm thankful nothing else happened. It didn't spill over anywhere else. But for the Grizzlies, I mean, at this point too, I see a lot of people talking about it and tweeting about it, and I agree. The Grizzlies, they talk a lot for a team that's never won anything. We heard Ja Morant earlier this year talk about, we ain't worried about nobody in the West. And then, they get a little chippy with everybody and Ja talking about, if you don't want to go viral, don't jump with me. It's like, y'all ain't even been to an NBA finals. Y'all talk a lot for a team that's never really accomplished anything.
Like, yeah, and I agree. Listen, you and I both love Ja Morant.
Absolutely.
We think he's an exceptional talent. I like the Memphis Grizzlies, but let's be clear, that team is Ja Morant. Rest of them guys, you can't even be out here talking because y'all not even putting up the type of numbers that Ja Morant is putting up. So you really shouldn't even be talking to not have accomplished anything really in this league. And you know what I mean? And you guys talking crazy. You guys talking to a dynasty team like the Golden State Warriors, and then you go get your boots smoked on Christmas without Steph Curry there. Okay, you talk crazy to LeBron, And it's like, bro, you realize this is a guy who is arguably the GOAT, right? Like people want to make those arguments for him. Whether you have him, you ain't got him lower than number 2 on the all-time list, right? And that's why the last time they played,
unless you're Will Gordon.
well, yeah,
Will.
he's like 50 if you will, Gordon. but yeah, man, then you get your big man boomed on, like LeBron did the last time, or you take an L like they did this time. In regard and big shout out to LeBron for getting the press conference and saying, "Nah, that's I got his back." Until to the wheels fall off this thing. I love that as well, and I also love that Shannon Sharp. Listen, he's a fan sitting courtside, whether whether he's in the media or not. He completely respected where he was at. If you notice, he did not step onto the court at all. He was very mindful of where he was at. He was behind the line on the sidelines where he has every right to be. And he's talking. I don't see anything different than when we've had other famous fans talking trash back and forth with players on the sidelines in the past. He didn't say anything crazy. All he said to Dylan Brooks, "You too small to guard LeBron," which is true. He ain't lie to him. You ain't listen. Everybody, and that's not even no slight, because there's not a lot of guys in the league that could guard LeBron James. He's the biggest, strongest, and fastest prototype of a basketball player that we've ever seen. So that's not even really a slight to say you too small to guard LeBron James. But when you talk about, then when you start throwing F-bombs out, now okay, so now you got to stand on that. Now listen, and don't get it twisted. Just because Shannon Sharp is a very intelligent brother, and he might not jump up and slap the taste out of Skip Bayless' mouth when he get out of pocket on the show, that does not mean that he won't whoop your ass. Okay, this is first of all, this is a superstar level Hall of Fame football player. Okay, let's be clear. Dylan Brooks, you ain't even close to being an all-star. So there's levels even from that standpoint. Just be mindful and play ball. That's all I can say. Be mindful and play ball. Win something first. If you win and you talk crazy, you know what? It is what it is. You gotta be able to back that up. But yeah, if you ain't winning and you talking crazy, nah.
Dylan Brooks, solid ball player too. I don't want to take nothing away from him, solid ball player. But Dylan Brooks has tried to take on like this tough guy mentality where he's like, he wants to be the goon of the Memphis Grizzlies. I don't know him personally. I don't know if that's how he really is, but it just, to me, it comes across as like what Draymond is for Golden State. Dylan Brooks is trying to be that for Memphis. And I get it. I like the mindset. I'm not mad at it for trying to create some toughness and kind of be the protector of the team. But you also got to understand, like, as you mentioned, I'm sitting here talking crazy to LeBron as if I've accomplished anything on his level. I haven't. That's a loss for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting here going back and forth with Shannon Sharp. It's friendly banter. Yeah, we could trash talk, but we should never cross the line of being disrespectful, because Spike Lee trash talk with everybody when he's sitting courtside. But It don't get disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you see a lot of them guys, they'll talk to Spike and they'll trash talk him, and then the game is over and they'll laugh in his face like, yeah, we had to do it to you. But again, we didn't cross that line of being disrespectful. And you and I know this, we talk about this all the time. There's certain phrases and certain words you just can't throw at another grown man and expect it to be all right. It ain't just gonna be all buddy at that point. We could trash talk, but we could be respectful by being trash talking as well. And like I said, Dylan Brooks, if that's the role you want to take on, you the tough guy, you the goon for Memphis, cool. But it better work out for you. Because if not, then you just start to sound like a dude who is okay, who thinks he's better than what he really is, who's never accomplished anything. So far, that's what it looks like.
And I want to compare it to somebody else, right? Eric, I've been very vocal. I don't really rock with Draymond Green like that, right? But Draymond Green is a guy who has the resume to where he can talk trash. Okay, the man got 4 NBA championships. He got a Defensive Player of the Year award. He's got several All-Star game appearances. That is the difference between talking just to talk and being able to back up everything that you're saying. If you're going to talk like that, you better have the resume to back it up. He does not have that resume. John Morant, to be honest with you, doesn't even have that resume. He's just an unbelievable talent. You know what I mean? But as far as having the actual resume, he don't even have the resume to be talking the way he be talking, especially when you're talking to LeBron James. You're talking to the Golden State Warriors, who are a dynasty. Let me say it again. They are a dynasty team, and you guys are by no means even close to being on their level. So John Morant don't even have the resume, and he's the best player on your team, and he is one of the best players in basketball. But he don't even have that resume. So Brooks, nah, bro.
That's what I'm saying. All that tough guy. I'm gonna be the goon of the team. All that only works if you're winning. Like we talk about like you said, we allow Draymond to do that. And when I say allow, I mean the media accepts it. I don't want to say like somebody's telling Draymond you're okay to do that. But
Yeah.
the media accepts it because, like you said, the resume speaks for itself.
Mhm.
So I can't tell you it doesn't work when clearly it does work. You've been the protector of that team and it works. The bad boy Pistons. We talk about the bad boy Pistons way they did because the resume speaks for itself. You went to 3 straight
Yes.
NBA finals. You won 2 NBA finals. So what Lambert and Mahorn was doing, whether you liked it or didn't like it, it worked. But you can't be that guy. And then it's like, we're not even sniffing championships. We just run around trying to be tough just to be tough. We not winning nothing. We ain't accomplished nothing, but we look tough when we sound tough.
Yeah, absolutely right. So get it together. Okay, step your game up. Get to a conference championship at least. When
they was in the conference championship last year.
Magic Trophy was when the Magic Johnson Trophy for the winner the MVP. Get one of those first, then start talking. At least, you know what I'm saying. Give me one of those. Then I'll be like, all right, you can start talking. But until then, no, sorry. Anthony Davis, speaking of the Lakers, close to return. They're talking about maybe within the next week or two. I like it. I love it actually because I mean the way LeBron been playing as as of late these last couple of games, this last couple of weeks, man, putting up them type of numbers, he definitely needs some help. And there's a lot of games that if LeBron is playing like that, you have AD there, they're winning these games. I just hope he can stay healthy with this one. Do you think AD returning helps the Lakers make a playoff push?
It can. I mean, as we're recording this right now, the Lakers are only a game and a half out of the play-in spot, the 10th spot. So they're within range, but it's got to be now. I mean, enough is enough. Pelinka obviously is too scared to make a move. The injury part of the Lakers is always going to be a big factor and a big issue for them. But they're at a point at 21 and 25, they're just beyond their halfway point of the season. We're approaching an all-star game. If the Lakers are going to make a push, it's got to be now. You can't wait any longer. It has to be now. AD cannot miss any more time when he does return from this injury. LeBron can't be injured moving forward. And you got to keep getting the production from Russ because I think Russ has answered a lot of the critics and he's responded to a lot of the critics with the way he's played recently. So if you get AD back in the fold and you can lighten up some of the minutes for LeBron and get them a rhythm going, yeah, you got a shot to make some noise. But it has to be now. There can't be any more roadblocks for this team because they've dug themselves too big of a hole.
Absolutely. And once again, I'm gonna say this again: F them picks. Go make a trade.
Nah, Rob Pelinka holding on to them picks, boy.
Like it's his he holding on for dear life.
He don't want to let them picks go for nothing. And I think it's too late for a move. I honestly do. But the Lakers are gonna have to figure something out.
You know what the crazy thing is depending on what happens with the Lakers, Rob Pelinka might not even be around for them picks. So
he definitely won't be around because he ain't gonna be around 7 years from now.
Exactly. So you might not even be around. So you should really be like F them picks and go make something happen. But you know what? It is what it is. Eastern Conference, Atlantic Division, Boston Celtics. Another tough win last night, but they did take 2 losses. Robert Williams got hurt again, and Marcus Smart also got injured in that game. Celtics have been very fortunate with the KD injury because they were able to sustain that first place lead that they have. But you're talking about 2 key losses for Boston, depending on because they haven't announced how long those guys are going to be out. But how big of a loss for the Celtics is this?
Yeah, the losses could be major because you're talking about defensive stalwarts on this team. I think the Celtics will be fine as long as these don't linger. Robert Williams specifically, though, because he was injured early this year, and he's a guy who has a lot of trouble staying healthy. So with him, they got to take their time. They got to figure it out. I think they can sustain the injuries unless they become lingering long-term injuries. Then it could be something different for them because Boston is a team really built around their depth. Yeah, they got Tatum, they got Brown, but their depth is what makes them special. Their ability to bring Grant Williams off the bench, Robert Williams, Horford, that rotation of big men they have there, that's what makes them different from everyone else.
Exactly. I agree 1,000%, especially when you look at a guy like Marcus Smart, who's your defensive player of the year,
Mm-hmm.
and a guy like Robert Williams, who could be a defensive player of the year candidate, the way he blocks shots, and plays defense. So depending on how long these guys are out, and you hit the nail right on the head there. Their depth is one of the keys to their success, and you're taking away two key guys to that rotation. Hopefully for them, they're not out long term, because it could things could start getting a little shaky because Milwaukee's still coming. We seen Kyrie just put up a 48-piece McNugget the other night, so he ain't about to let the Nets get too far down in the standings. So hopefully those guys get back to it soon.
Yeah, Robert Williams. Robert Williams might be their most important piece in terms of how they would be able to compete, like you said, against Milwaukee, Philly, Brooklyn, because
Yes,
he is a guy who can get you 3 to 4 blocks a game and really change what you do defensively. If you don't have him, and then you're missing Marcus Smart on the perimeter, now
mhm,
your defense takes a major hit, and you're not the same team that we saw go to the NBA Finals last year.
exactly. So we'll see how that goes. Quick update on the All-Star game votes. Obviously, I know Kevin Durant done went down, and since then, Giannis has taken over as the number one vote getter in the Eastern Conference. My man LeBron still got that locked in the West. Now my question to you, Eric, is if ultimately Giannis winds up taking that number one spot and he's the GM on that team, because I think it's going to be LeBron continues to be undefeated in All Star games because we know Giannis ain't really the best at picking teams.
Yeah, Giannis does it for fun. LeBron does it to recruit. We know what we know what it is. You know what I'm saying? LeBron does it to recruit.
Takes it very
So
serious.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's always fun to see them guys, pick their team and kind of see why they pick certain guys and all that. But it's all in fun for Giannis. Giannis ain't taking it too serious.
Nah, I know. I'm just looking forward to All Star Weekend, man. I love these games. I really love because it just kind of takes you back to the schoolyard. We pick a team. Like I am, like I am, like I got. You know what I mean? Like I love it, man.
Yeah, NBA All-Star Weekend still kind of trumps all the other All-Star weekends.
Hmm.
Just because, like you said, the fan experience. Even though the dunk contest has fallen off, it's something that we still tune into, depending on who's in it. And like you said, then the aspect of it being like we at the playground. I got this guy, and teammates could sometimes go up against each other because they didn't get picked on the same team. So those type of things.
Did you see Aaron Gordon tried to kind of like get him a spot on the All-Star team? He said if I'm an All-Star, I'll do the dunk contest.
Unfortunately, Aaron, you're not an all-star, and we've seen you in a dunk contest already, so we're good. We're good.
The guy that we want to see is the guy that been talking all that smack in Memphis, and that's John Morant. That's
Yeah,
what I want to see. John Morant versus Anthony Edwards in the dunk contest because Anthony Edwards just baptized a couple of cats the other night as well, like
Anthony.
back-to-back plays.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards caught 2 bodies out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would love to see them in it too. I would. I don't know how the NBA could do it, but I would love the NBA to try to implement some sort of like in-game dunk version where it's kind of like you jumping over, you got to dunk on somebody
Mm-hmm.
because that's what makes what Ja and like I said Anthony Edwards what they did so special.
Yes.
Like where they taking off from, and then you're dunking on a 7-footer at that. Like those are special dunks.
So all right. So what if we could? All right. Let me throw this out there. If we had Anthony Edwards versus John Morant versus Aaron Gordon versus Zach LaVine.
It's a good lineup. But
That's
then
a
I'm
hell
gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna throw another wrinkle in there. Put those 4 guys right, and then you put Rudy Gobert under the rim, and say, "All right, go dunk on Rudy."
damn, man. I mean, any one of those guys, Rudy Gobert, he done been dunked on. And again, this is respect a multiple time defensive player of the year, but he done
Right?
dunked on by damn near
Yeah,
everybody.
he,
You know,
he's been he's been on several highlight reels.
but you got to you got to dunk over Rudy Gobert and Manute Bol. I mean, excuse me, and Bobo.
Bobo
Yeah, my guy
at the
Bobo
same time.
at the same time.
All right, let's do it.
We got to spice things up because the dunk contest has been slacking, and I know partly is because we don't get the guys that we want in the dunk contest, and it's been like we're used to, especially us, from our generation, we're used to seeing the guys that in the dunk contest, And a lot of like the last, I want to say 10 years, the majority of the guys that's in the dunk contest, I mean, yeah, if you're a hardcore NBA fan, you know them. But for the most part, there's a lot of guys that we don't really, know like that. Like the average person doesn't know that's in the dunk contest.
Mhm.
So, you know, it is what it is. But we'll see. Maybe things this year will be different. But again, we will see. Oh, my man, LeBron James is the number, the man. We're gonna keep updating you on this number. The number is down to 261 points to pass Kareem for the all-time scoring record. Um, I said a couple of weeks ago he was probably gonna do it before All-Star break. Um, just looking at that number and doing the math and the way he's been playing, it's looking like he'll probably do that in like 10 games. Um, I can't wait, man. I'm just looking forward to seeing it, bro.
As we're talking about it, I wanted to bring up who their next couple games are to see, because I have a feeling it may not even take 10 games. I wouldn't be surprised if he gives us a 40 piece very soon.
Mhm.
So this way he got coming up for the rest of the month. They got the Blazers today, they got the Clippers, they got the Spurs, they got the Celtics, they got the Nets, they got the Knicks.
I mean, he could average 40 throughout the next couple of games just because those are, especially like the Clippers and the Knicks games are going to be high volume games. So he's going to be in there. And again, Anthony Davis is not slated to come back this week. They're saying in maybe a week or two. So, I mean, I think he's still, you know what I
I
mean?
think he's gonna try to drop 40 on the Knicks. I'm gonna be honest. That's in the
It's
garden.
oh, yeah.
That's in the garden. So that's his only trip to the garden this year.
Yeah.
Uh that might be the game that he tries to drop 40.
Mhm.
And then you go into February. I think he's going to try to break it by February 7th or February 9th, because that's when they come home off their road trip. They get the Thunder and then they get the Bucks. There's their two home games before they go back on the road for a couple games. So
How
I
many games
that
would that have been from today's game?
so to end off January, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the Thunder game would be the ninth game, and the Bucks game would be the 10th game from today
And those are both at home.
at home. I think that's where he's going to try to break it.
Yeah, it'll be one of those. Because the only other thing I would have said where he would have not wanted to do it or wouldn't have minded doing it on the road would have been if they were playing in Cleveland. I think that probably would have been the only thing where he would have been like. But other than that, I think he definitely wants to break that in LA. Especially just it's not that it's a Laker record, but it's a Kareem record who
Right.
you know what I'm saying represents the Lakers. So
And keep in mind the February 9th game against Milwaukee, that's a TNT game. It's happening there.
Okay.
If it doesn't happen there for whatever reason, let's say he misses a game or two and it doesn't happen there,
Mhm.
then the next most likely might be February 11th, because that's a primetime ABC game against the Warriors.
Ooh, that would be nice too. All right. Well, listen.
But I think one of them primetime games, I'm say February 9th. Because like you said, he's got to average about 26 points,
Mhm.
which is very doable. I think he's going for 40 at the Garden just because this is his only trip to the Garden this year. And
Yeah.
one of his, at this point in his career, we got to call it what it is. These are some of his last trips to the Garden as well. So he may try to go for 40 that night.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we well, we can actually skip over. We can talk college football. It's two big stories going on in college football right now. I'm gonna because I know we got to start getting ready for the games, but I'm gonna really quick just say congratulations to Deion Sanders again for recruiting the number one cornerback in the country, Cormani McLean, to go to Colorado. You have got to take your hat off to this man, Deion Sanders, and what he's been able to accomplish. Seriously.
I mean, yeah, Dion has done it again. Dion continues to show that he can recruit. Um, Travis Hunter last year, McLean this year, along with some other guys that they're bringing in, and obviously his sons are going with him. Listen, man, college football is going to get very, very interesting
Mhm.
with what Dion is doing in Colorado. And, for the people that might be skeptical, like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. No, this was the number one cornerback who was committed to go to Miami. And he changed his mind when,
You
him and Dion, yeah, when him and Dion started speaking. So Dion is already putting together something pretty impressive, and it's going to be a quick turnaround in Colorado.
absolutely. And then the other college football story, which I'm very upset about, because y'all got my man effed up. Arguably the greatest one of the greatest safeties to play the game of football, Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion, defensive player of the year, Ed Reed, and Bethune Cookman. Y'all got my man Ed Reed all the way effed up, and y'all mad because he was blowing up the spot like he should have. Because it's a shame what's going on in these schools. Because we saw similar things going on in Jackson State. We have a friend of ours that's actually in the HBU system, and we've heard him talk about the stuff that they got going on down there in those schools, and it's sickening. And you cheated those young men out of a chance to be coached by one of the greatest defensive players to play the game of football. And it's not cool. And HBCUs, you know what I mean? You got to step your game up. Okay. You got guys that are coming in. You got Hall of Fame uh level men coming in to coach and teach these young men football and life. You have to do your part and step your game up as well. And for Bethune Cookman, for somebody who was at Hampton homecoming versus Bethune Cookman some years ago, I can tell you this: the best part about the Bethune Cookman football program is the band. Okay, it is what it is.
Bethune Cookman should be ashamed of themselves. They should be embarrassed, man, that this went down with Ed Reed. Ed Reed has no ties to that university. We've
Nope.
said the same thing with Dion left Jackson State. No ties. So for him to take that job, he is doing you a massive favor. This is somebody who is not only an NFL Hall of Famer, he has NFL coaching experience. He could get any job in the country he wants. So him going there is doing you a favor. He also had his nephew transfer there. And they were mad at Ed Reed for exposing some of the things he was noticing around the university when he wasn't even being paid yet. But yet he's already trying to upgrade the facility. He's cleaning up the facility. He's doing everything he can to get it prepared for his students and his players. And for you guys to then put it out there as a press release like, oh, he's withdrawing his name. I'm actually happy. I hate that it happened the way it did, but I'm happy that Ed Reed spoke up for himself. And this is the beauty of social media, where he can come out and say, no, I didn't withdraw my name. They don't want me here because I'm exposing things that they don't want to hear about. And again, Bethune Cookman, you should be ashamed of yourself. It's embarrassing that this is the type of interaction, this is the way you do business with a legend like Ed Reed. Edgerrin James, I believe, was on live yesterday, and he talked about the money that Ed Reed was already raising for the university. Even
Yes.
though his contract wasn't finalized, he was already raising money for the university to try to make it a better experience for all the student athletes there. And for them to do this is shameful, man.
Exactly. Get y'all act together, man. It's a shame and it's embarrassing. Okay, so really step y'all game up. This is what we've been asking for. We've been asking for this type of player, this type of the guys that have this type of notoriety, who are also all time greats, to come in to these HBCU schools and help out the programs. That's what we've been doing. That's what we saw with Dion, and you tried to ish on him on his way out when he stayed there longer than he had even agreed to staying there, and on and when you're talking about what his resume as far as the actual football team and what they were able to accomplish. Come on, man, you got to do better than that. You had Ed Reed as your head coach. Do you know what those young men would have been able to learn and who they could have been able to become under the tutelage of one of the greatest defensive players of all time? Come on, y'all got to do better than that, man. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Okay.
That's a fact.
So, we did have a UFC fight. UFC 283 went down. Vacant heavyweight championship belt. Jamal Hill and Glover Teixeira. They both fought. Jamal Hill, he got the decision. Um, and because of that, I don't know if it was because of that, but Glover did say he was going to retire. I don't know. I don't know if he retired because of the loss, or he was just already. If he didn't win, he was planning on retiring anyway. But either way, good fight, and congratulations to Hill on winning that belt.
Yeah, Glover's a UFC legend. He'll be a Hall of Famer, and it might have been a combination of the loss along with just the career and calling it quits.
Mhm. Yeah. So, but either way, good one. I'm still waiting for UFC 285 though. My man John Bones Jones will be
He
back
will
in.
be back. Yep.
I'm looking forward to that one. We got some WNBA news. Really quick, gotta shout out the ladies, man. Give it up for the ladies. Congratulations to uh one of the greatest, maybe even they may even look at her as the GOAT. But Sue Bird, four-time WNBA champion. She will have her number 10 jersey retired by Seattle this June, June 10th to be exact. Congratulations, Sue Bird. She's actually from the area. Well, from this, not where you at, Derek, but from where I'm at, she's actually actually someone, a friend of ours, actually went to high school with Sue Bird, and a couple other players. So big shout out to Sue Bird on that. Congratulations. And the New York Liberty were able to snatch up the 2021 MVP Jonquel Jones in a three-team trade. I love it. I love it for the Liberty. It's a New York state of mind, so I love that for them. Congratulations. There's also talks that another former MVP and WNBA championship, actually teammates with Sue Bird, Breanna Stewart. She's supposed to be meeting with four WNBA teams to figure out where she's going to go. One of those teams on the list is the New York Liberty. So, the ladies in New York might be cooking up something special.
Liberty trying to build a super team.
That's what they trying to do. Because if Breanna Stewart come over next, it might be lit in New York. Listen, the Nets and the Knicks might not get a chip, but the Liberty just might hold it down for us. So congratulations on that one. But that being said, Eric, why don't you give us a final thought so we can get ready to get up out of here, man?
Absolutely, man. Hope everybody has a safe and happy Sunday, man. Enjoy the games today because they're gonna be some really good ones. Appreciate you guys continuing to support us and rock with us every Sunday. Don't forget, we're gonna be back Friday for the live. If you want to join the Grown and Sexy conversation, join us on Wednesday night at 9 p.m. as well. That's always a dope show, shooting the But hey man, we appreciate you guys. We love you guys, man, and we'll see you guys next week.
Sir, and once again, before we get up out of here, let me just say this. Make sure you guys subscribe to all our social media, Twitter, Instagram at Real Fan Talk, Facebook.com/Real Fans Real Talk. And we throw the YouTube channel up there for everybody. YouTube.com/For the Fans Productions. Make sure you subscribed. And do not worry if you are not in the New York City area on Thursday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. and you can't watch us on TV. I know y'all like seeing us on TV on Verizon 43. Do not worry. You can still watch us from anywhere you are in the world. All you got to do is hit up that website. It's right there on the screen, www.realfansrealtalk.com. Click that red button on the homepage and you can watch us from anywhere in the world. Oh, and I know you already are, but just because I know we get new fans all the time, but make sure you guys subscribe to both the Sanchez Show podcast and the Real Fans Real Talk podcast. We are streaming on all major platforms. We got all the sports content you need, baby. So with that being said, for myself, Trip Young, my brother, legend in two games, Eric Sanchez, we up out of here.
Peace.
Peace.